the mic have died again. This mic is if this mic is gonna die again, I am going to end the broadcast and I am going to redo it for tomorrow or sometime next week. So let's give a couple of minutes and then we will see what is clapping. Currently there's no people online, but I have a good show. So, oh damn it! Now the thing is also a problem. Like, it's really true. When it rains, it pours. The speed is not good enough. It says that it's too slow. Hopefully the stream will increase. Right, I have people online. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Like always, I appreciate everyone is online and joining the Sunday show. Today's show is going to be about the open podcast remarks that this week took South Africa by storm. Now, I have to apologize. I wanted to be live much earlier, but there is something wrong with my microphone, this particular damn microphone. And it's not the microphone, it's the audio interface that I'm using. I'm currently using a Focusrite. So anyone who wanted to start a podcast and want to buy an interface, I would not recommend the Focusrite audio interface. It has a problem with its drivers. I've uninstalled it, reinstalled it off and on again. It cuts out, as you guys would see sometimes when I'm recording. It cuts. So all of that is just giving me a lot of hassles. So with all of that being said, I also realize now that my stream, especially the Wi-Fi, are slow. I've reported the Wi-Fi. They're supposed to increase the speed of the Wi-Fi, but up until thus far, they haven't increased it. So bear with me. It will the stream will not look as good as it's supposed to. But in the coming week, I will record it completely, and then I'll put it out as a separate file. So I'll re-record it, and then I'll set it out as a separate file, so it would look much better than it currently look. So I do apologize for it. I see there's chat. It might be with regards to someone saying that the sound is off. Let me just quickly check before I go into today's topic. Milking the situation now. Our Dr. Dre away, bro. I'm not milking a situation, my bro. If I was milking a situation, then I would have it wouldn't have been set up like this. So I'm not milking the situation, and the way you anticipate how this conversation is going is completely. And as I promised, my mic have cut out. Now, with all of that being said, let me get into this in today's business, like this brass and milking. Let me milk the cow. Meow. I'm like I said, I'm definitely milking the situation. Now, as you guys would know, this is open podcast and what is happening. It's actually this week that they came on my radar. Before that, they were completely not on my radar, this particular podcast, because it's not for me. The type of podcast I'm following is more with current affairs and things that is happening. Um, uh, uh, that is more towards politics, to put it differently. It's more towards politics. Now I'm quite a little bit impressed with this podcast, their growth, and the one thing that I would say, it is a talented group of young people who are running this particular podcast. So I was quite surprised. They have a YouTube plug. It's not everyone that can get a YouTube plug, and they also had a reward. They got a award, one of the best podcasts in South Africa. So definitely, this is a group of young, talented people, and they seem like they're working hard, because they put 1 or 2 episodes out on a weekly basis. Now I have been doing this since 2027. It is difficult to be that consistent. So big kudos to them as a podcast. Now, as you would know, this is what happened. They made some comments regarding colored people, and that same evening, while I was recording another episode on colored and that specific identity and some of the problems that is perceived within that community, what happened was that this story also break, and there was a big boo-ha over some of the comments that they did. Now, if only me would have this conversation, it becomes repetitive and it becomes one-sided. So I asked one of the contributors to this show a number of questions and respond to also have her take, because she identify as a colored woman in South Africa. So one of the first questions I asked Danielle was, what was her take on it? And I didn't want to phrase this. I wanted her to give her specific take on the whole issue. And this was Danielle's response.
So when but it was one of the first things that I saw. So when I saw the clips, I think it was Monday or Tuesday when the entire thing.
Sorry, just give me a moment. I just want to quickly fix that.
I think it was Monday or Tuesday when the entire thing blew up and went viral. But it was one of the first things that I saw pop up on my FYP Monday or Tuesday morning. And I remember feeling an immediate sense of outrage. I was very upset. I was very angry because I took those stereotypes, those derogatory comments that they made, and I personalized it, right? I saw it as an attack on my personhood, on my sense of dignity and the dignity of those I love and my broader community. And I think that was the collective response. I think most people felt outraged and upset, and rightfully so. I want to say here that people's sense of anger is very legitimate. Anger is a very reasonable, rational response to being stereotyped, to being discriminated against, to being dehumanized. I don't want us to be too quick to try and quell the anger and tell people it's not that deep, okay, get over it. Anger is very rational here. And I think it can be a very useful emotion as well. I think we just have to be constructive about how we allow that anger to surface and how we give voice to that anger. I don't want us to try and brush over it. But in my case, I moved very quickly from feeling angry to feeling a sense of apathy and sort of hopelessness and disappointment, all rolled into one weird gray emotion, because the words that they spoke were nothing new to me. the utterances, the pathologizing of colored people as mentally ill, as dangerous, as criminal, making a caricature of colored people for comedic fodder, these things, it's not unique. It's not a unique experience in post-apartheid South Africa. I've had wild things said about me and said about my community from other race groups, including Black people. So yeah, it didn't feel so surprising, so shocking. But I think there's a real danger that we're not aware of. I don't know. You scroll through comments and there are people who say it's not that deep because other groups are also being stereotyped. By the way, colored people are not the only victims on this podcast. There are other ethnic groups who are also being discriminated against. Women are being especially discriminated against, as well as the queer community. But this cavalier, casual way of just discriminating against vulnerable groups of people, I think there's something very dangerous in allowing that dehumanization to happen and for us to just be okay with it for laughs. I think it's very dangerous. I think it sets us back in terms of building a country that is socially cohesive, that is inclusive, that is equitable, that is just, all those beautiful, beautiful values that we think we try to uphold. It sets us back so far. But I also think at the same time it's very necessary. I think it's very good that this came up and this came up so publicly. Because it shows everyone that we still have a very, very long way to go in terms of reaching a society that is more just, a South Africa that is more just, that is more socially cohesive, that is more democratic. Yeah.
Yeah, so in between, I normally switch off the mic. Now, it's a great response from Danielle, because one of the things that I just want to highlight, that there was this initial reaction from her that she felt, because she is a colored woman, and this kind of feels good. But then what deeper reflection, what happens is that you start thinking more clearly and different about the situation. And Danielle, in the next question that I asked her, explained why she took a more rational conversation, because as she pointed out, there is a conversation that we need to have. So I asked her a follow-up question: how should we, as affected groups, not just one group, affected groups, approach this situation? And this is what Danielle had to say.
I think that whatever happens is going to require a multi-pronged approach. I don't think there's any one solution that someone can offer that will remedy the conflict that's arisen this week. I do want to say here that I am a dialogue practitioner. And I work in the field of transitional justice in South Africa on issues of anti-racism and social cohesion and belonging, etc. And I have seen in my work the relevance and the usefulness and the impactfulness of having transparent, inclusive, and sustained dialogues. There is this narrative that is perpetuated, particularly on social media. You see it quite often, that it is government and our political leaders who perpetuate divisions between us, who entrench those divisions. And to an extent, that is fact. And I think we only need to take a look at our political parties and our political leaders. And we'll see that they employ the sort of divide and conquer tactics to ensure support for them. So that is certainly true. That narrative is certainly true, but it is not only government. It is not only our political parties who perpetuate divisions. There are very real interpersonal tensions that exist between different groups in this country. And I think we need to be very honest about those tensions that exist, and we need to name them. We need to, from my perspective, get into a space, all of us, and have authentic, truthful conversations about what issues we have with one another. Because it wasn't Gayton McKenzie or some other demagogue who made those derogatory comments against colored people. It was another black man, another black South African. It was an individual, wasn't a political actor. And he was not paid by the government to make those utterances, no matter what conspiracy theorists say. So the open podcast chats have shown us that we have very real issues with one another, and we need to be honest about those issues, and we need to work towards resolving them. We can't resolve anything unless we're willing to acknowledge that there is a problem that exists. So that is one thing I think needs to happen, is we need to have truthful conversations, and we need to sustain those conversations. So we can't get together just once with one another. And I also don't think we should be having these conversations on social media, just by the way. But we can't be getting together just once or twice and chatting about race relations in South Africa. We need to be having these conversations on an ongoing basis. So I think dialogue is very critical in terms of advancing social cohesion between us as South Africans. But I also think, and I don't know how this will play out, but something's got to give with podcasts in South Africa. This Open Chats podcast is not the first problematic show that I've seen pop up on social media. I don't know anything about Machi, but I constantly hear about Machi's podcast, and he said this, and now he's being sued. So podcasters spin their show, and particularly marginal in this, especially queer. He's got to get podcast if regulation wonderly. Do we involve freedom of and I don't know. Or yeah, I don't know. Maybe we need to hike up the prices of podcasting mics. Maybe people who do podcasts need to be qualified. I honestly don't know, but something's got to give, because the Open Chats show it's what. Those utterances were not an aberration. They were not unique. It's not the first time. We can't keep having these sorts of conflicts arise. We can't keep giving people with really harmful, bigoted views a platform on which to spew their bigotry. So yeah.